Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about the Harry Styles spit mystery and why Dungeons & Dragons is at the heart of it, in my humble opinion. All right, so let's get into this. So we have this Harry Styles spit mystery. Did Harry Styles spit on star Chris Pine? Now, I think, even a year or two ago, this would have just been Hollywood shenanigans. The Dungeons & Dragons community would not need to be engaged on this. But that's no longer the case. Chris Pine. So when Hollywood drama breaks out, you can bet Dungeons & Dragons is going to be at the heart of it, usually going forward. And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons holds the fate of Hollywood in its hands right now. Okay, Hollywood has for years before the Great Pandemic came out. Hollywood people were like, "Oh, we think Hollywood's dying," right? And but it's been around for a century. America holds an immense amount of control through internationally, right? We control a lot of what happens in other nations through Hollywood, right? There's very real concern to have Hollywood continue to be up and running, right? And the reality is, right now, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is Hollywood's best and maybe one of its last shots to say we are completely relevant and we're as strong as we ever were. Now, and we're going to get there in talking through this Harry Styles spit mystery. Be patient. You'll see why Dungeons & Dragons is at the heart of the fate of Hollywood. Okay, and why we as Dungeon Masters need to be very concerned about Hollywood shenanigans now, because they're central to Dungeons & Dragons concerns, because Dungeons & Dragons is central to the fate of Hollywood. Okay, all right. So basically, there's this question, and you could see the video online on 100 different places on YouTube. Did Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine? Now, the reason why that's important to every Dungeon Master and every single Dungeons & Dragons player, and why this is a central question for us, and why we need answers to this mystery, is Chris Pine ain't Chris Pine. That's Elgin the Bard, man. And he now carries the banner of Dungeons & Dragons. He carries the banner of Forgotten Realms. He carries the banner of the Red Wizards of Thay. He carries the banner of Ed Greenwood. He carries the banner of Gary Gygax. He carries the banner of every Dungeons & Dragons player who ever created a bard. He carries the banner of every Dungeons & Dragons player who ever rolled up a human. He is a Dungeons & Dragons banner carrier, just like Ginny D, official Dungeons & Dragons banner carrier at this point. He's important. He's no longer just Hollywood. He's Dungeons & Dragons important, right? All right. So and if Harry Styles spit on him, that cannot stand, right? Dungeon Masters are going to need to boycott every single one of his films and boycott every song he ever made, right? And there's real ramifications to that. We can never watch Dunkirk again. That's a good film, right? And I don't want to lose it, but I'll tell you right now, if Harry Styles spit on Elgin the Bard, I will never see another film he's in. I don't care where it is. That ain't even Marvel. If it's a Marvel movie, it's a DC movie. If they put him in a Star Wars movie, right? That's a cost to me, right? So here's the question. So we want an answer. We want a real answer to this. Did Harry Styles spit on Dungeons & Dragons and every member of the Dungeons & Dragons community? We need to know, right? Now, normally, if this was even 5 years ago, the answer would be simple. The American scientific community would be engaged. The American investigative community would be engaged. But we live in a new world, a dramatically new world, right? One of the things that we're seeing right now, a buddy of mine had a vehicle stolen, right? Police show up, right? And he's like, hey, no worries. We got everything here, right? Here's the tape of the people stealing the vehicle. And here is an object they touched with an ungloved hand. So here's the fingerprints. And here's the tape. Thank you very much, detective. See you tomorrow with my car when you have solved this mystery and brought the criminals to justice, right? And they all but laughed at him. They're like, we don't need to see the tape. We don't need to take any fingerprints. We have a process, and that process is going to start. And it was very clear, right? It wasn't said out loud, but it was very clear to my friend there would be no justice for him. The police he'd be lucky if they turned his car back over to him if it was found. Nobody was going out to seek justice and put criminals in prison, right? There was going to be no justice. And all over in America, we see this. Institutions are there, but they're worthless. and it's all up to us. So it's up to you and up to me to solve this mystery, right? So let's start that process. Okay, so first of all, what do you do when you solve a mystery? The first thing you do is you ask if there's a motive, right? Was there a motive for Harry Styles to spit on Chris Pine? I'll tell you right now, I think the answer is yes. And that motive is Dungeons and Dragons, all right? So why is there a world in which Harry Styles would spit on Chris Pine? Absolutely. Here it is. Okay. So this is what I think happened. This is my supposition. Olivia Wilde, had a brilliant movie called Booksmart. Apparently that was her only good idea, and she's like, "Why don't we do refried beans version of Valley of the Dolls?" And somebody was like, "Well, you're actually Hollywood. We'll give you some money. Go forth." Right? So she gets Harry Pines involved in this. She gets Florence Pugh involved in this, big rising star, Florence Pugh. And she gets Chris Pine, who is a rolling, actual, real Hollywood star, right? And so they're all attached to this film. They get in the middle of it, and everything goes sideways, right? There was talk that there was in-house romance, right? Like on the project, people involved in the project should be doing their jobs, but instead they're setting up romantic situations. Did nobody pay attention in 2016? Romance in the workplace is not a good idea, and sure enough, it went south, right? So now people on the film are fighting, right? So why would Harry Styles be upset with Chris Pine? Well, it's pretty clear. Dungeons and Dragons, in my humble opinion. So this is what I think happened. Harry Styles, he recently got booted from the live action Little Mermaid. That would have been a huge accomplishment for him. That probably would have been easily. That thing would have been $1 billion as a layup, right? I think a lot of people would have seen that, and generally, almost all of the live action Disney remakes are making $1 billion, right? But so he's booted from that. He was in Dunkirk. Everybody kind of ignored him because it was a milquetoast performance, right? Harry Styles is saying, "Hey, I'm a boy band rock star. Hollywood needs to make me a huge movie star," right? And honestly, I don't see a lot of work or labor from him, right? And I don't think he's doing a good job with his acting, right? So he's frustrated because he doesn't have any real projects in the future, and nothing he has on tap is even close to being $1 billion film, right? In walks Chris Pine, right? Chris Pine's coming off of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is the only films that worked in the DC universe, and I think they worked because of him, right? And he has just landed what looks to be Hollywood's resurgence, which is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. So I think Harry Styles is thinking to himself, okay, that's going to hit, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is going to hit in March of 2023. Great Pandy will be 3 years out. Nobody's going to need to wear a mask. It'll be the beginning of the summer, right? It'll be right near the beginning of the summer for 2023, and everybody will be able to go to the film, go to the movies with no masks, and live like the old days. Even more than that, by that time, President Volodymyr Zelensky will have taken his Ukraine forces and continued his push into Russia, and probably will have taken over Moscow and all of Russia, right? So the world is celebrating the end of being on the brink of World War III, celebrating the end of the rule of Vladimir, of Putin, and the Russian tyrant, celebrating the end of Russia holding the entire world hostage, making sure that some countries can't eat, making sure that some countries have to worry if an NW is going to come and take care of and actually make a few 1 or 2 or 5 or 7 of their cities disappear, right? There's going to be a huge celebration, and everybody's going to be going back. And Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves could be the first $3 billion film, right? There have been multiple films that have scraped 2.9, right? Titanic and Avengers Endgame, but this could be it. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, a big Hollywood blockbuster with the CGI everybody wants, without politics, which would allow it to go into, without a whole bunch of American politics in the middle of it, which could allow it to go into China, right? And it is perfectly poised to be the first $3 billion film, right? a return to the movie theaters when everybody, like, when the season is right, when World War III is over, you know, when being on the brink of World War III is over, when Britain has had a strong leader for a full year because, you know, Boris Johnson is out and there's a stronger conservative leader there, Harry knows, I got to get on Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves sequel. So he goes, in my opinion, I think this is what happened. I think he went to Chris Pine and he's like, can you get me on that juggernaut you're on, man? All my projects are crap. Clearly this Don't Worry Darling, we just finished. We've seen the dailies. It's junk. It's not going to go anywhere. But you're at the start of a Hollywood legacy franchise. Can you get me into the sequel? And Chris is like, I'm sorry, buddy. I saw Dunkirk. You were crap in it. Sorry. You know? And I think at the end of the day, Harry knew it was true, right? That it's not enough to just dance and sing a little bit. You actually have to work at being a good actor. And he doesn't done the work. And I think he was furious. And I think that at the heart of this is Dungeons & Dragons. And so, and that's the issue. So in my opinion, motive was there. Now, what will answer this mystery is Chris Pine has not denied or confirmed that he was spit on. I think the reason why is he's very smart. I think he doesn't want to be Chris Rock, right? Will Smith showed the world. It is not a great place to be a victim, right? Chris Rock did not come out great. Honestly, I think people think more of Will Smith today than they do Chris Rock. That's terrible. That should not be, right? And so I think Chris Pine doesn't want to be Chris Rock. So we have a problem because even if Harry did spit on Chris Pine, we got this situation where Chris Pine may never admit it, right? Now, I'm not sure he's wrong, right? You get put in that victim box, man. It's hard for people to see you as a leading man if you're in the victim box, right? And look at it. Has Chris Pine ever been a leading man? Not in any movie I can remember. You see him being a leading man in any kind of film going forward? So I think the answers are there. We're going to have to continue to investigate this. We're going to have to do what we can to apply the scientific process to determine if if Harry Styles actually spit on every member of the Dungeons & Dragons community by proxy by spitting on Elgin the Bard, right? We have to stay on this. We have to power through until the investigation is done. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.